Hey there! Welcome back to another video. This time it is a rant and review on what I personally feel is the worst Star Wars film to date. And that is Star Wars The Last Jedi, which I like to call Star Wars The Last Pink Eye. This film is insufferably dull and boring. It's 150 minutes running time, or 153 minute running time. Feels like it's 5 hours and 53 minutes. The writing is absolutely idiotic and terrible. The characters, even established characters like Luke Skywalker, are written poorly, are completely 100% disrespected. And even the new characters, they're not given much new at all in terms of development. The action is forgettable. It doesn't incite any kind of excitement. It's not thrilling. It's not memorable. And I keep using the word not memorable because that's the perfect way to describe it. It's like this director has never directed an action movie before of this scale. And that's technically true. He has not done that before. And it definitely does show. And there's just so many other issues that this film is littered with that kill it. And not only kill the film, but in my opinion, kills the entire fucking franchise. I hated The Last Jedi. I hate this film. This is easily the worst film of the year for me. Because Justice League is terrible, it's bad, but I didn't have any hope for it. I didn't have any expectations for it. It's a film that was just another turd in a overflowing toilet that is the DCU. Alien Covenant is just another shitty Ridley Scott Alien prequel that was unnecessary and was insulting and stupid and beyond lame. Okay, but I was expecting that. I liked The Force Awakens okay. I thought it was a decent film. With more watches, it's not as good as I remember it being, but I still thought it was a decent time waster. I felt it was an okay first step for the new franchise. The Last Jedi goes backwards so fucking far, it goes into light speed. It goes just light years backwards in terms of development with the characters, in terms of the story, in terms of everything. So far back that it might as well be causing a fucking Big Bang to start everything all over again. That's how far backwards The Last Jedi goes in terms of the story, the characters, and it's stunning. The amount and the level of failure in The Last Jedi just made my jaw drop. So, The Last Jedi, Star Wars The Last Jedi is episode 7. Episode 8, because episode 7 was the previous one, and I'm discombobulated already, because every time I think about this film, it just fills me up with so much rage inside of my body that it starts lighting my brain cells on fire. So, Star Wars The Last Jedi is directed by Rian Johnson. Now, he was not the original director. The original director was Colin Trevorrow, who did Jurassic World. He did some film that was poorly received by critics and audiences, and Disney told him to get the fuck out of here. They were like, oh, that was terrible. We don't want you anywhere near our tentpole, big new Star Wars franchise. So this hired Rian Johnson. Now, Rian Johnson before this had done films like Brick and Looper, both of which I still have not gotten around to seeing yet. Looper, though, is on a list of requests that I have that was requested by subscribers and friends and so on, so I'll get around to watching that sometime. Everything I've heard of that film and Brick sounds like they might be pretty good movies, but those movies don't really sound like anything like Star Wars. which is kind of going along. It's kind of par for the course when it comes to Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, and company's approach to the Star Wars franchise lately. Let's hire people who really don't know how to really make a Star Wars film. Let's give them the reins. Hey, that guy who did Godzilla, Gareth Edwards, who the movie that teased Godzilla over and over again and only had like a bit of Godzilla in the entire over 2-hour running time. And let's give that guy a Star Wars film. And he doesn't really know how to direct action sequences because he hasn't really done them to save his life. And we get Rogue One and you get action sequences that are bland because you have a director who doesn't know how to direct action. And the same thing happens here. You hire Rian Johnson, who's never directed anything of the scope or the caliber of a Star Wars film in his entire life. You give him the keys and he delivers one of the blandest, most unimaginative, and infuriating Star Wars films ever made. Now, let's not give people who have experience directing this kind of stuff the reins. So before everybody says anything, yes, I understand. In the previous films, in the original trilogy, there were directors that were given the job that hadn't really done a lot of stuff like Star Wars before. But I would say that the things that they had done, like Irvin Kershner, were a little bit more in tune with the kind of... Well, actually, I take that back. Just because that worked out doesn't mean you need to continue to try to... Let's give someone who doesn't have any experience directing this type of film a shot again and again and again. I just feel that's not really the best approach. It might have worked before, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's really the best option. And I think there's a lot of other directors who would probably be a better option than Rian Johnson, especially directors who respect and appreciate the original trilogy and the characters and the world and the stories from that franchise, from that series, from which this entire Star Wars phenomenon is built upon. Let's choose a director who literally just trolls the fans via Twitter with a picture saying your Snoke theory sucks. Let's hire a guy who decided to turn Luke into a sad sack failure of a man and of a Jedi, and write him in a way that was so fundamentally wrong that Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill, was like, this is bullshit. I disagree fundamentally with every single thing that you are doing with my character, and he just went along with it anyway. So you have a guy who, I don't even think he's a Star Wars fan. How could you be a Star Wars fan if you did what is going on in this movie? How the fuck can you be a fan of Star Wars if you write a script that is so flawed, that is so disrespectful, that it might as well be a giant dick slap in the face of the original trilogy and of the characters and of the stories and of everything that it built? How the fuck can you call yourself a fan of Star Wars if that's the case? I don't think he is. I don't think he gives two fucks about Star Wars. He just likes Disney's paycheck that they're giving him. And this guy's getting his own trilogy? This fucking guy? Rian Johnson? Ryan Jerkin, his own Johnson, is getting his own fucking trilogy after this? He doesn't deserve it. He doesn't. Because what he did was piss on the legacy of Star Wars in this film. Well, he's jerking his own Johnson. So, yeah, okay. Let's actually talk about the movie. Let's actually talk about Rian Johnson some more. Rian Johnson, I thought his direction was unimpressive. I wasn't impressed. Visually, it looked good. It should look good. It cost over $200 million. A lot of the shots were CGI or touched up with CGI. So I don't really know how I can really say, oh, Rian Johnson, his direction is the reason why those scenes look so great. Those are probably scenes that ILM did inside of a computer, and Rian Johnson probably wasn't even there. Okay? There's other scenes where, okay, it looks like it might be pretty decent in terms of the visuals and so on. His direction wasn't terrible, but it wasn't impressive. There was nothing about it that made me go, wow, this is some amazing direction. This direction is so unbelievably awesome. There's nothing about it that made me feel that way about it. I would also say his direction was pretty unimpressive as well, because he didn't really do that much to get the most out of his actors and their performances, especially from Kylo Ren's actor, Adam Driver, or Daisy Ridley, who I felt kind of took a step back when it comes to her performance in this film versus The Force Awakens. She had personality, she had charisma, she had something in the last film. It seemed like a lot of that was taken away or muted. And large part is probably because probably because of the direction by Rian Johnson, and also his fucking shitty screenplay, which is easily the worst thing about this film. Which I'll get to talking about that soon. But yeah, I mean, really didn't get the most out of his actors. The action sequences sucked. They were bland. They were milquetoast. They were a lot of the time just blink and you miss it. The best one was mediocre at best. The lightsaber battle with Rey and Kylo versus these Imperial, like not really Imperial, the First Order guards. It was okay, but it wasn't anything that was spectacular. And other than that, there wasn't much of anything in terms of the action. And that's the director who's at fault for not being able to inject any kind of adrenaline in these action sequences. The finale is just these slow-moving fucking ships that are dragging their asses on the fucking salt field, slowly barreling towards a bunch of AT-ATs. It's the most anticlimactic climax I've ever seen in a Star Wars film. And one of the most anticlimactic climaxes I've ever seen in any film, period. And that ties right into his script. Rian Johnson's script sucks dick. Okay? I know it's not necessarily the kindest way of saying it, but fuck it. I'm not being kind. I'm not playing around. I'm not pussyfooting around. I'm not playing with Rian Johnson, this fucking dickhead, and this fucking film with kids' gloves, okay? Alright? I'm going all out, and I'm going hard as a motherfucker. So, Rian Johnson's script, here's why it sucks dick. Here is why it is such a rancid, smelly dick of a screenplay. And he really needed a rewrite or another writer or somebody to come on board to fix this shit. You have a plot that is beyond awful. It really is. It's an awful plot. It doesn't engage the audience. It isn't interesting. It rehashes shit from Empire and not really A New Hope, but it rehashes, well, there is a rehash scene from A New Hope in there, but it rehashes shit from Empire and Return of the Jedi. It doesn't answer any of the questions that were asked in the previous film, and takes pride in not answering those questions, as if the writing itself is just trolling people. It doesn't have one iota of respect for the character of Luke Skywalker or the original trilogy and the risks and the rewards that came from those risks in the previous films of the franchise. Has no respect for that at all, which is the most infuriating and aggravating thing about this screenplay. The way that Rian Johnson effectively turned Luke Skywalker one of the most iconic heroes in cinema into a fucking failure, an old asshole who's drinking fucking titty milk and fishing with a fucking spear that he might as well be shoving up his ass, or it's probably already up there because he's got a fucking stick up his ass throughout most of the fucking film. Oh, and by the way, you know, spoilers, you also make this character who's beloved by many, who has been through a journey and a evolution from a farm boy to the hero of the galaxy, somebody that people respect and admire, and you turn him into an asshole, a bitter fucking dickhead, and you fucking kill him in the most ridiculous, shitty, unbelievably retarded fucking way imaginable, where he doesn't even fucking do anything except project his fucking spirit all across the fucking galaxy and then then fucking die later and fade away into the fucking wind. Pretty much kills himself. You have Luke commit suicide at the end of your piece of fucking shit. I'm sorry, I just had to I had to get that off my chest. I had to get it off my chest. I had to get that shit off my chest. I'm not done with that either. But yeah, you absolutely raped the character of Luke Skywalker. Raped him into oblivion. Because you have no respect for that character. And I feel so much for Mark Hamill, because you can see in interviews and other things that he is 100% against what has been done to his character, what Rian did, and everything. And he just has to sit there and take it because he signed a contract. But you can tell that he hates this. He looks at Rian Johnson with utter contempt and disgust. And I don't blame him, because I feel the exact same way. So not only that, not only does he completely obliterate a character that is so beloved by many, he goes in and he pretty much gives the same treatment to the new characters. Finn is turned into a comic relief fucking pratfalling dumbass who's slipping and sliding on shit and saying cringe-inducing one-liners. Poe is relegated to just being a guy who the only thing he can do is fly an X-Wing, and that's it. There's nothing else to him. He tries to get the new character who might as well be a feminist. Really, might as well be one of those Tumblr-arena feminists. You know, it really might as well be a fucking Tumblr feminist. And she's got the purple hair and everything. And he's trying to get her to stop doing something that is extremely stupid in terms of her plan, and she's not listening to him. And then eventually he gets shot anyway by Leia, and she sides with the purple-haired, purple people eater, colonel, or whatever the hell whatever the fuck her designation is. Character played by Laura Dern, Vice Admiral Emmeline Holdo, and he then, of course, he gets I think he gets in another X-Wing near the end. I don't even know if he does or not. He doesn't really. Poe is wasted. They waste Poe. Poe could be the new Han Solo, and you leave him hanging. You don't do anything with him except have him fly an X-Wing in the beginning, get bitched out, get ranted at for what he did, and then spend most of the movie just pretty much shoving a thumb up his ass. That's it. The character of Rey, she goes backwards. We don't know anything about her. We don't know anything about her past. We don't learn anything about this character. She just gets even more powerful. She doesn't learn anything. She does the same thing that Luke did in Empire Strikes Back and gets no repercussions for it at all. She takes the same risks, and all she gets is the rewards. She is even more of a Mary Sue in this than she was in, actually, you know, this, the way that her character is written in this just makes me look back at Force Awakens and be like, you know what, yeah, she is a fucking Mary Sue. So there's not anything that this character Rey is given in terms of a character development by Rian Johnson that makes her a stronger character. I hear all these people saying that Kylo Ren, it makes him such a stronger character in this. I respectfully disagree. I think Rian Johnson makes him a character who has no fucking identity. It doesn't make him stronger at all. He makes him a character who flip-flops back and forth from being a raging emo to a good guy, but then back to a raging emo again. He hasn't learned anything. He's still throwing temper tantrums, punching the wall, yelling and screaming, acting like an emo bitch, and then there'd be random scenes where he'll like have a change of heart, and then later he'll go back to being an emo bitch. There's no fucking character. What character development? Oh, he actually turned to the light side briefly and then went back to being a bad guy. That's character development? That's fucking inconsistency. That's fucking schizophrenia. What the fuck? How is that character development? How is that developing anything other than making a character flawed, but just for the only for the reason to make him flawed? That's the only. I don't get it. I do not fucking get it. Man, I hate this fucking movie. So, not only, you know, you have that character's fucked. Okay. Snoke. Oh, Snoke might as well be a fucking smoke because there's just nothing there. It's fucking air. There's nothing for this character. We don't learn anything new about him. We don't learn about his past. We don't learn shit. And then he dies like a fucking bitch and it doesn't fucking matter. You have C-3PO and R2-D2 who are just there for little cameos. Chewbacca is completely wasted. He's just there to not eat a fucking roasted porg for a joke, which there are far too many of. That's another issue with this script. The myriad of absolutely unfunny, tired, and terrible jokes that come out of nowhere, that don't fit the scenes that they're in most of the time. You have scenes that are super serious with Luke, and then he's cracking one-liners. This does not work. It doesn't fit. Anyone with a fucking brain would look at the script and be like, these jokes are forced. They're not funny. And they're forced into places where they don't belong. It's like shoving a square peg into a round hole. But nope. Kathleen Kennedy is just like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I didn't like how the Han Solo movie had too much humor in it, but this movie's littered with fucking childish, stupid-ass jokes. Give me more of that. Please, Rian. Please. Stick your Johnson right up my snatch. I love it. Or maybe she's the one that's calling the shots. Whoever is in charge of writing this shit or making this shit happen really is to blame, in my opinion, for the death of this fucking franchise. I am not going to support a franchise that throws away the past like it's space garbage to prop up the new characters and the future. Especially in a way that is so disrespectful and insulting. I didn't give this movie my money. I didn't pay to see it, and I'm not going to pay to see episode 9 or the Han Solo movie. I'm not going to give Disney and Kathleen Kennedy and Ryan Jerkin his own fucking Johnsons. I'm not going to give them a fucking penny. Because I'm not going to support this shit. I'm not going to support this horse shit. This fucking stinking wampa shit. I'm not going to support people who do not understand at all what makes Star Wars what it is, and what has made it so popular, and what has made it a household name, and what made it so relatable and lovable and memorable to so many people. I am not going to support people who don't fucking understand that. And if you feel the same way, you shouldn't do that either. So that's my... There's other stuff about the script too. Like, for instance, you have this whole subplot with this new character named Rose, who is just there to be inclusive. I mean, there's even articles that are praising the film for including a Asian frumpy girl as a main character in a Star Wars film, and it just this character is so forced. This character, if you've ever seen pictures of Kathleen Kennedy and read about her, she is a mega feminist, and I don't necessarily have an issue with that. But when you interject that shit into a film, into a Star Wars movie, that's not acceptable to me. Get your fucking politics out of Star Wars. I don't need to have Laura Dern play a purple-haired feminist leader in this film. I don't need that. I don't need to have Marie Tran come into the film and be absolutely god-awful in a role with a character who's just shoved down my throat as if this character is supposed to be a big deal, and I have no reason whatsoever to even give a shit about this character. And her character does nothing to her. She acts like a fangirl to Finn. I guess she's a mechanic or something. She's a maintenance worker. She just tags along with Finn and Benicio Del Toro's stuttering character, and that's all she really does. The entire subplot with that character could have been cut out of the film, and it would have just made the movie better. But no, you have this subplot that's just shoehorned in there, shoved up my ass, and I'm supposed to just sit there and take it, and I'm not, because it's not fun. It makes the film that's already boring and poorly paced even more boring and poorly paced, because you have the subplot, which I don't give fucking two fucking shits about, and a character who is poorly written and poorly acted, who is just thrown in here to, I guess, be some kind of social justice fucking win for Kathleen Kennedy and Disney. So that's a huge issue with the script. This fucking subplot that goes nowhere. And if the script wasn't bad enough, I mean, you have these actors who don't really deliver performances that are that great either. So Mark Hamill comes back as Luke, and he tries. He tries to bring this character back to life. He tries. But he's got nothing but rancid, stinking bullshit to work with. He's got a character who is nothing like Luke Skywalker. He's got a character in the script that he's looking at and he loathes. And you can see it in his face that he's just, this is not Luke Skywalker. You can see it, that he's just, the passion isn't there, and I don't blame him. I would have a hard time having passion for this shit too. And what infuriates me even more, well, infuriates me more, not even more, what stokes the raging fire within, is the fact that you had the expanded universe, and you had stories of Luke getting older and having more adventures and stopping the Empire again, and along with his friends, Luke, it's himself, sorry. Like I said, this fucking movie just discombobulates me. It just makes it hard to think. Because I hate it so goddamn much. So, yeah, he goes in and stops the Empire once again with the help of his friends Han and Leia and R2 and C-3PO, and you have the Shadow of the Empire story, you have the Thrawn trilogy, you have this whole subplot where he ends up turning the Emperor's guard, pretty much, like the Emperor's assassin, Mara Jade, to the light side, to the side of good, and actually marries her, and they have kids, and it's this epic, continuation of these characters, and Luke has grown to become this character who's well known throughout the galaxy, of being this sign of hope, this symbol of hope that everybody can count on. And in this, he's just a fucking old, tired man who doesn't believe in anything. He thinks the Jedi are evil. He tried to fucking kill Kylo Ren because of one vision he had, because I guess it just fucking lost his mind. And then he fucking dies in the end! Like a fucking bitch! He dies in the end, fades away like dust in the fucking wind. And that's what they did with Luke. They made him a total fucking failure. It's bad enough that this franchise, this new trilogy, made Han a failure. Now they had to do the same with Luke? Why was that even necessary? You know, Luke dying isn't really necessarily the worst thing. If he died being a hero, if he died, well, you could say he technically did here, but in the most half-assed way imaginable. But if he died in a way that was like how I felt with Han, if Han died like sacrificing himself in the Millennium Falcon or something, I'd have more respect for that. The same applies with Luke. If he died like having some epic battle, and then that would be one thing. But that's not what happens at all. He doesn't have an epic final battle. The one fight he has is with Rey, and she beats his fucking ass. It's like I want to beat Rian Johnson's ass. And Kathleen Kennedy's ass. You're watching this shit. So you also have Carrie Fisher, who comes back as Leia. And her performance, it's there, it's fine. The character isn't much, though. She's got given a lot to do except to be kind of a leader, say some lines of dialogue, and then float around like Mary fucking Poppins in space. It's one of the stupidest fucking scenes I've ever seen in this entire franchise. I mean, stupider than shit I've seen in the prequels. I mean, anything that Jar Jar Binks has done, that's Mensa level shit compared to Leia surviving the vacuum of space and floating around and flying through the air like she's Mary fucking Poppins. Adam Driver is Kylo Ren. I wasn't impressed with his performance in the previous film, and I'm even less impressed with his performance here. This guy is a poor man's Keanu Reeves. There's a reason why when you do like a face swap of Keanu and Kylo, Keanu and Adam, that they look similar. Yeah, he's a poor man's Keanu, and he has absolutely none of the acting talent and the charisma that Keanu has. I don't buy him as a badass. I don't buy him as a villain. He's the weakest fucking Star Wars villain ever. There's nothing to this guy. He's just a emo, whiny scene kid. There's just this character is just awful. They should just killed him already. I mean, I would have respected the film more if Snoke just cut off his fucking head and shoved it up his tight ass. Daisy Ridley as Rey, she's just Mary Sue princess of the universe. Like, there's nothing. What does she learn? Luke's supposed to teach her like 3 lessons. He only teaches her 1 barely, and then doesn't even teach her a 3rd one. She trains with Luke for what feels like 30 seconds, and all it is just doing some yoga shit, and she goes immediately into the dark side, which understandably freaks Luke out, and then she masters, she fucks around with a lightsaber, and in a comedic scene where it doesn't really look like she's mastered anything except crushing the caretaker's wagon, and then she fucks off in the Falcon and flies off somewhere. And then she is able to take out Snoke's guards, who were highly trained to protect him. She takes them out like they're nothing, with Kylo by her side, and then by the end of the movie, she just moves half a fucking mountain like nothing, and then fucks off back into space again with the Millennium Falcon. It's one of those things. It's like, what was her journey? What was her evolution? She didn't evolve at all. There was no evolution with this character. She remained the same as she was at the end of The Force Awakens. John Boyega as Finn, I don't blame him for not turning in the best performance, because he was just given a sidekick role to the new character in Rose Tico, and given cringe-inducing lines of dialogue. Your move, Chrome Dome. Or, you know, I don't think he said your move, but it might as well be something like that. But he called Captain Phasma Chrome Dome. This is some fucking 80s cartoon. And then it has the god, that line of dialogue near the end where he fights Captain Phasma and she says, "You're scum. ... Rebel scum." You're fucking kidding. You gotta be fucking kidding me with that shit. That is absolutely 100% even worse than the sand line and the other stupid shit in the prequels and even the bad lines in the original trilogy. I mean, what the fuck was that? And I liked John Boyega. I liked Finn. And not only is this character poorly handled and wakes up out of his sleep and smacks his head on a fucking window and then slips on some water and falls on his ass like he's Charlie fucking Chaplin or some shit, or one of the Three Stooges. But he's tagging along with this new character who the film gives you no reason to give a fuck about except that she's there. And then he has a really lame fight with Captain Phasma. He says even lamer lines of dialogue during it. And the relationship that he was building with Rey, that's just fucking dissolved into fucking nothing. Nothing is ever said about it. Nothing ever comes from it. You think that maybe they might become a couple, and that doesn't happen. And instead, you're this fucking frumpy Asian chick is the one who's now given the role of being the love interest or the best friend of Finn. We don't even get to know anything about the Stormtrooper past either. Nothing. That character especially goes backwards because of Johnson's dick writing. Might as well have written this script with his fucking dick. And written it in with his own cum. Because this, like I said, this script sucks dick. And it's fucking cum. Oscar Isaac, I can't really say much about his performance because he was barely in the movie and barely did anything. Andy Serkis as Snoke, I'm not impressed with Andy Serkis' performance here. He villain monologued and then died. Lupita Nyong'o as Maz Kanata, brief role, and just blink and you miss a cameo. For some reason, I guess she stole Cliff Secord's jetpack and then flies off. Domhnall Gleeson was still annoying as fuck and chewing every bit of scenery that he was in this movie as Hux. And the film had the opportunity to force choke his ass so he'd finally shut up and stop being an annoying asshole. And it didn't even give me that. You know, I would have given the film props for at least killing this fucking guy, but they couldn't even do that. C-3PO's there, and somehow that red arm that he had in the last film, it's gone, and he has a normal arm now. None of that's ever explained. Gwendolyn Christie as Captain Phasma. I mean, yeah, C-3PO, it's not just an arm thing. He's there for, like, a few scenes, and one scene he's just there to be told to shut up. Just want to say to Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy and this entire franchise, shut up and shut off. Because you fucked up. And then you have Captain Phasma, who's just like, she's there to be like the Boba Fett of the franchise. And just like Boba Fett, she doesn't really do that much except look cool and then die in what seems like 30 seconds in the lamest way imaginable. Kelly Marie Tran as Rose Tico, new member of the Resistance, and might as well just put a fucking cardboard cutout that says frumpy Asian girl, because that's really about all the impression she leaves on the audience. Laura Dern, I like Laura Dern, but this character is written as a stone cold bitch for a majority of the film, and I don't see that as being strong at all. I just see that as being bitchy. And then later, because Leia wakes up from her coma, all of a sudden she's all nicey nice. That makes her look like she's insane. And she sacrifices herself in a way that completely doesn't make any sense, and just makes it so, well, now light speed is weaponized? So that means that anybody could fucking do anything. Like, the Empire could send some ship through light speed and blow up everything that the Resistance has to offer. Or the Resistance could blow up some other fucking ship with weaponizing something in light speed too. It's just this absolutely lazy-ass cop-out by a dick who wrote this script. Frank Oz comes back as Yoda, and he just says some... It doesn't really sound... It sounds exactly like Yoda, but the lines and the way that he says them don't really sound like it's a Yoda sort of thing. It's like a alternate universe Yoda who's like cracking jokes about the old Jedi tomes not being a page turner and and talking about how failure is the best lesson. It just seems like that. It doesn't seem at all like Yoda. It's like Yoda is there, but it doesn't really seem like it's actually Yoda. It's like some other Yoda that apparently is out of touch and doesn't really understand at all what Yoda is about. And also has his stupid powers, like being able to shoot a lightning bolt and burn something. It's like, Force ghosts now have powers? I didn't know that was the case. Benicio Del Toro is absolutely 100% wasted as DJ. He's just a code breaker who stutters, who then predictably turns to the dark side and kind of tries to screw over the heroes in the end. Nothing to this guy. You have other characters from the original trilogy that make cameo appearances, like Nien Nunb, but he's just there and doesn't say anything and doesn't do anything. Admiral Akbar shows up and then fucking dies off screen. Chewbacca's there and he flies the Millennium Falcon at the end. He has some stupid scene with the Porgs, and that's it. R2-D2's there. He has a fun scene with Luke. Excuse me, where it seems like R2-D2 is swearing, and Luke is like, hey, watch your language, or something like that. And I'm like, what was R2-D2 saying? He was like, this is fucking bullshit. This is stupid. This story sucks. What is going on here? Why the hell are you acting like an asshole, Luke? I don't know who the fuck you are. Stop being such a sad sack. Take that spear out of your ass and go save the universe. But that's probably not what happened. But R2's there. He plays the hologram of Leia, which said, Obi-Wan, your only hope. And that's what gets Luke to get off his fucking ass and do something and train Rey. Not the fact that, oh, my best friend is dead. Oh, my sister is in danger. None of that shit. Oh, I watched the old hologram. Oh, Ben. And then, Ben did this for me. I should do this for her. Blah, 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 blah. Lazy fucking uninspired hacking bullshit. BB-8, of course, is there, but BB-8 is all of a sudden now able to do anything and everything, including hacking and ATST, and I guess firing deadly coins out of his ass that kill some people, or should have killed somebody. And that's really about it when it comes to the cast. Out of all of the performances, I would say Carrie Fisher was serviceable, but it's not like she was given that much to do. Mark Hamill, I can say the same for him. But out of no one else really delivered performances, in my opinion, that were good, let alone great. All the other performances by the cast were pretty fucking bad. There wasn't much to them, and in large parts because they didn't have anything to work with because the script sucked so much. Then you have the score by John Williams, which I would say it's better than the last film's score, but a lot of but none of the new music leaves any kind of an impression on me. None of the new music makes me want to go and listen to it again. None of the new music sticks in my head. The only time that I feel anything or felt anything from this music is when it was just reusing and remixing bits and pieces of the scores from the previous films. And at least with The Phantom Menace, it had its own new score that was actually legitimately great. The Duel of the Fates is an absolute masterpiece in my opinion. Excuse me. I'm allergic to this movie's bullshit. So, but yeah, Duel of the Fates, I personally feel it's a masterpiece of music. There's not a single note or single score, bit of the score in this that is anywhere near close to being that good. Cinematography by Steve Yedlin. It looks good. Do you want a medal? Do you want a cookie? I'll give you a golf clap. Good for you. You looked pretty. Wow. None of that matters because your story sucks dick and it doesn't fucking work and it's insulting and it's disrespectful and it's full of character choices that don't make any sense. And has a subplot that's useless and you have a climax that is the opposite of exciting. But you sure look nice. You sure look pretty. Oh, you look so pretty. Edited by Bob Duxey. I think he could have done a better job because he could have edited out a lot of shit that would improve this film's 152-minute running time, which was at least 30 to 40 minutes way too long. So, I hope you guys are enjoying this venting so far, because I still got some more things to say. I know it's like 40-something minutes. This video is gonna be as long as it's gonna be. All right, because I don't want to talk about this shit again. I really don't. So, I've talked about the things that didn't necessarily work about it earlier. So I'm going to reiterate some of them soon. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mention some things that I liked about it, which there are fucking none. There's nothing. There's nothing I liked about this movie. You can say I'm over-exaggerating all you want to, but there really isn't anything that I thought was worth mentioning. Except, the sound design. That should be good. I mean, why praising your sound design? That should be a given with a multi-million-dollar film like this. The visuals, yeah, they're nice to look at. That's all. And that's really all I have to say. The visuals are nice to look at, And it has some good sound design. Everything else sucks. Sucks space herpes. Now now to the things that don't work. The things that are horrible about The Last Jedi. The things that give me fucking pink eye about this movie. Story, the direction, mainly the story and the script, the characters, which even beloved characters like Luke Skywalker are unlikable. The climax, which is, like I said, one of the worst I've ever seen. The action, which is even less memorable than any of the action in the last film. You couldn't improve upon that. You just continue to slide down the shitter in terms of the action sequences in this series. The way certain aspects of the story that were brought up in the previous film are just thrown away and burned, and it seems like it's just out of spite. Really, it just seems like Rian Johnson was just like, hey, fuck you. Fuck you. You want your Snoke fan theories? Fuck you. Oh, you want to know more about Rey and her family? Fuck you. She's just space garbage. She's just a kid from a bunch of nobodies. Oh, you want to see Luke evolve and become a better character and be somebody that people can be inspired by? Fuck you. It just seemed like it's just a constant stream of just fuck yous by Rian Johnson in this script. And it just seems like a lot of it is either on purpose or a lot of it's just because he's fucking lazy. He doesn't want to put the effort into writing a backstory for Snoke, or he doesn't want to put the effort into writing more of a backstory for Rey. He doesn't want to put the effort into doing anything with Snoke other than having him do a villain monologue and get cut in fucking half because he's an idiot. He doesn't want to do anything. He wants to do the bare minimum and effectively sabotage the entire franchise. He wants to make Luke into this complete opposite character when it comes to what he stands for. He wants to have the Force be something that now everybody can access, and even has a kid at the end of the film use the Force to bring a broomstick back to him. Which is just fucking ridiculous. And before anybody says anything about the characters, I'm gonna do some rebuttals here for some of the responses I'm probably gonna already hear in the comments and from other videos and so on. Well, the Emperor in the other films in the trilogy, there was no backstory for him either, and you gave it a pass. Yeah, the backstory thing with Snoke wasn't the biggest issue I had with The Last Jedi. I could take or leave that, to be honest. Because I didn't like Snoke to begin with. I thought he was a shitty, unremarkable, in one ear, out the other villain in The Force Awakens. But what really upset me is that you have this villain who is Force lightning Kylo, controlling him, able to literally use the Force to effectively force fuck Rey. And this guy just goes on a typical villain monologue and gets killed in the dumbest way imaginable. Also, his appearance didn't help either. He was wearing a gold, sparkly bathrobe. He looked like he was the lost member of the band Disco Express. Like, what were they thinking with that? All he was missing was the fucking slippers. Or the disco shoes. And the disco ball that I want to drop on Rian Johnson's head. Because he's 10 seconds away from the most embarrassing moment of his life. But anyway, you had the whole thing with Snoke. He dies in the stupidest way imaginable. And then, you know, at least the Emperor didn't die like that. At least the Emperor didn't die like a bitch. At least the Emperor wasn't given all these powers and then died in the dumbest way imaginable. Oh, Luke is just like Rey because he's a farm boy who then his parents die. We don't know much about his parents. And then, yeah, but Luke also has his aunt and uncle who die tragically. Rey doesn't even have that. Rey didn't have anything like that. Luke was just going to stay on the farm until his aunt and uncle died. And then you find out who his father is and his mother is later in the franchise. You still don't know who the fuck Rey's parents are at all. Like, at least in The Empire Strikes Back, you found out who Luke's father was. You don't figure out anything. You don't know shit. You are just as left in the dark as you were about Rey's parents in the sequel, in the first film, in the sequel, in The Last Jedi. It's unacceptable. Oh, well, Captain Phasma, she's just like Boba Fett. Yeah, she is. That wasn't acceptable with Boba Fett, having him die like a total bitch. And it's not acceptable for Captain Phasma to do the same either. And to counterpoint the people who are going to attack me for saying Rey is Mary Sue and say that Luke is Mary Sue and Anakin's Mary Sue and all that. So I've heard people say things like, well, Rey, her flying the Falcon, that's the same as Anakin flying a space fighter in the Phantom Menace. But not really, because Anakin at least knew how to fly a pod racer fairly well before he got into a space fighter. Rey hasn't even done anything like that. At all. And she gets in the Millennium Falcon, struggles a little bit, and then masters it like it's nothing. Rey is a total Mary Sue. Because, unlike Luke, she's learned everything and knows everything in the span of like a week. Luke took years to get where he was at the end of Return of the Jedi. Rey knows all this shit from day one, it seems like. She doesn't need that much training from Luke. She can beat Luke in hand-to-hand combat with the staff. She can fly spaceships, spacecraft she's never flown before with ease. She can use Jedi mind tricks already and use the Force to bring the lightsaber to her without any issues whatsoever. She can lift the equivalent of pretty much half a mountainside at the end of this film with just a flick of the wrist. And Luke had a hard time lifting a fucking X-Wing in Empire Strikes Back, or even keeping rocks up in the air. And this fucking chick just fucking lifts rocks like it's nothing. She's a Jedi in steroids. She can take out Kylo Ren with no training with the lightsaber. She can fight back all of these highly trained guards that Snoke employed like they're nothing. And she can make the same decisions that Luke did in Empire Strikes Back to go and save his friends despite the warnings that were given to him and come out of it scot-free. How is she not a Mary Sue? Total Mary Sue. 100%. She's a Mary Sue and she skips to her loo. Might as well skip her ass into the loo as into the toilet where this character belongs. I didn't mind her in the first film. I absolutely loathe this character now because there was no arc at all with this character in this film. She just stayed the same. It was the same superpower Jedi in steroids, super princess of the galaxy, and it just, I'm done with Rey. I'm done with this character. She is easily one of the worst characters in the Star Wars franchise because there's nothing to her. She's a pretty face, and she's a super princess of Star Wars. I think they would have benefited from turning her evil because that would have actually been something that would have been surprising and legitimately ballsy. The choices they made in this weren't really that ballsy. They were stupid. Making Luke a sad sack failure. Stupid. Having Leia float around in space like she's Mary Poppins. Stupid. Having this subplot with Rose and Finn and trying to find a way so the First Order isn't able to track the Resistance into light speed. Stupid, because it doesn't lead to anything, and it doesn't, and nothing really happens. The climax, stupid. Luke force projects himself and that kills him? How? Why would that kill him? He's not even there. Then you have the whole thing with the... All they needed to do to get away from that situation was move some rocks. Rey should have... What? Why did Luke even need to be there? Seemed like Luke's distraction... They could have found some other way to distract them. Hell, Rey could have just done that shit, moved rocks while Finn is trying to sacrifice himself and blow himself up. She could have easily just landed the Falcon, been there already. And if she has the Force, Luke could have just communicated to her with the Force and said, hey, you need to lift these rocks out of the way so the Resistance can escape. Luke didn't even need to be there. Luke didn't even need to die. Especially not the way that he did. So yeah, so much of this script is just stupid, moronic, inane, insipid, and idiotic. I'm pretty much ranted out right now. I really don't know what else to say. I think I've said my piece. I think I've said enough. There's probably more that I could say about this, but I just don't want to talk about this anymore. It's just too depressing. It's just too sad. It's just too upsetting. To me, The Last Jedi is an unforgettably bad film. It's the type of movie that you see, and the decisions that it makes and the choices that it chooses are so fundamentally flawed and so disrespectful and insulting that it gives you no faith whatsoever for the franchise going forward. And I cannot understand the amount of praise this film has gotten for making these type of choices. I do not understand the people who say, Last Jedi killed my childhood, and that's why it's great. The Last Jedi is not a Star Wars movie. It is nothing like a Star Wars movie, and that's why it's a masterpiece. I cannot understand this mindset. And I don't want to. And if you feel that way, fine. To each their own. We agree to disagree. If you love the film, you think it's great, you think it's a great movie, you think it's the best film since Empire, it's fine with me too. I vehemently disagree. But I'm going to end this with this statement. If you really do, truthfully, hate the choices that Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson made for this Star Wars franchise, with this movie, with this latest installment, then boycott it. Boycott Episode 9. Boycott Han Solo, the Han Solo movie. Don't buy any Star Wars merchandise. Don't see any more of this shit. Because if you don't support it, if you don't like it, if you feel that they are 100% wrong with their approach, if you feel that they totally pissed on and shit on the original trilogy and Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and all of these characters that you love and you grew up with, and they totally destroyed everything that they stood for and the stories and everything and all of the things that they went through, all of that was tossed in the fucking trash. If you truly feel that way, then do not give Disney your money. Don't give that fucking mouse a cent. And yes, I do feel that The Last Jedi is easily the worst Star Wars film. It's the most disrespectful. It's the worst film in terms of how it sucks the soul out of Star Wars. It's the worst film when it comes to overall quality, in terms of the writing, in terms of the storytelling, in terms of the characters, in terms of the action, in terms of the intrigue, in terms of everything, except maybe visuals and sound design. But I would argue the prequels are on par with that, with this film when it comes to those things anyway. It just makes me respect the prequels even more. Prequels have more going for them. All three of them have more going for them than this entire film does. The Star Wars Holiday Special is more enjoyable than The Last Jedi. It's not as insufferable to sit through because at times you can laugh at it because of how bad it is. And if you watch the one of the commercials, you can watch the commercials. And those are better than this entire movie. Commercials from the 70s have more merit and are more entertaining than a Star Wars film released in the year 2017. That is fucking pathetic. Just like this film. It's a fucking pathetic disgrace. And I don't want to talk about it anymore. So thanks for watching. And I hope you guys enjoyed the long rant. And as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.